So in this video, we're going to learn how to link our CSS and JavaScript files. But before that, I just want to show you guys a list of common attributes that we've learned so far. So we know that for images, we use source to link them, and we use the alt attribute to describe the image for accessibility reason. And when it comes to input, we use the type attribute to define whether it's a text field input or whether it's a password input. And when it comes to anchor tags, we use the href attribute, whether we're going to link to Google or another external file or local files, we use the href attribute. Another common attribute is classes. As we learned, we use classes to select items in CSS, and it's really common. We can assign it to multiple HTML tags. An ID attribute is also another way to select items in CSS, but as I mentioned before, the only difference between classes and IDs, one of the main differences is you can only use it once per page, the ID, but you can use classes multiple times. So now we're going to learn about the style sheet and how we can link them. So the way you would link a style sheet is you open a link closing tag, again it's like the images, and you give it a rel attribute, and then you just write style sheet, and then you also give it an href attribute like the anchor one, and then you link your style sheet, which is an external .css style sheet, whether it's going to be in a folder or in a root directory. You would link it with href, but you need to have the rel attribute because you need to write rel and style sheet. So this is the attribute we have to write for linking our CSS. And the way you would link your JavaScript is with source attribute, again like images, but this time we have to open a script tag, and then we have to close the script tag, and then we don't need to put anything in the middle. That's really important. So just leave anything in the middle empty because we're linking it, because sometimes we write JavaScript in the middle, but when we use the source attribute to link JavaScript, we don't write JavaScript in the middle. So let's go and see it in action. Alright, let's go ahead and open the HTML linking file. So you can see that I have a JavaScript file and a .css file in the root directory, and this is our result. You see that is really ugly. So as we learned, the way we would link the CSS is with link tag. So we're just going to write link, and then Visual Studio Code is going to complete it for us. So it already gave the link a rel attribute, so you need to just link it with the href. So it's in the root directory, so we just write style. So the moment we write style, Visual Studio Code picks it up. So I'm just going to click on it, and the moment I press save, you guys saw the difference. It's like everything totally changed, and because we already linked our CSS style sheet, so you see that we have the interaction effects, but when I click on the buttons, nothing happened because we need to also link our JavaScript. So we learned that we use the script, and then we can choose the script, but we're gonna choose the script with source. So it asks us for a source. We're just gonna write index.js because it's in the root directory as well. So let's press save, and now as soon as I click on red, the background changes, and I click on blue, the background changes. So this is how important it is to link your JavaScript files and CSS. Another note is we always link our CSS style sheets in the head, and we most of the time link our script files in the body, and which is the last element of the body. So we sometimes link our script on top, but the best practice is always link your JavaScript files at the end of the body tag and link your style sheets in the head tag. So I hope you guys understand the fundamentals of web by now. So without CSS, this is what we get. If I just comment it out, we still have the interaction, but it's not as clean and it's not as beautiful. So let me just bring back the CSS, and then we have these beautiful buttons and interaction effects. And without JavaScript, nothing's gonna work, even though everything is beautiful. So with JavaScript, we can add interactivity to our web and manipulate the DOM. So this is how CSS and JavaScript are really important when it comes to front-end development. And by now, HTML is the skeleton. Now without HTML, none of these would exist. So we just create our markup in HTML, and then we style it in CSS, and then we add interaction to it with JavaScript. So this is how are we going to approach this as we go forward.